Hey everyone, I wanted to go ahead and share. I had a great example and I decided I'm going on a river rant. You know how that goes. I keep saying like I need to call it River Reacts, but it's always just kind of me ranting, isn't it? It's all good. It is all good. So, here, let me set the stage for you guys, okay? Let me get this all in order really quick. And I want to make sure I have everything sort of protecting the innocent because I don't really blame this person at all. But I thought it was so important that we as a community came together and talked about it. So let me go ahead and share. Interesting. Hopefully this will let me share appropriately. And I'm always trying to figure out if I'm doing this right or not. Whee. As I said, right? Oh boy. So we're going to try to go through what I saw, and I want to teach you guys a little bit about managing and how a lot of people in the industry are just kind of doing it wrong. So here is the first screenshot. So in this example, what this person's saying is the groomer here says, I am sure someone in the shop can help her with the bad dog. The lady does not have authority over anyone's schedule. It's not okay for her dogs possibly to be here longer than 3 hours. She can just take them back home. Again, we're not getting the full picture of what's going on. We're just getting a little snippet. The business owner says they are good clients and good keepers. Keeping them happy is part of my job. Going forward, let's respect the 2-dog limit and make sure we are reviewing behavior notes before scheduling training groomers. We want success for them, not stress. The grooming employee says, going forward, you could just schedule the dogs yourself or miss whoever. If how I schedule is not up to your standards, maybe you should, you should also flag it as a bad dog and put better notes in a spot it should be in. Also, if you need to talk to me about something, I am more than willing to discuss it with you tomorrow in person. So we look at this grooming employee and we're like, oh man, they're kind of being a jerk, right? You're not being super nice. And this is what the person was asking, right? Hey, do you guys how do you guys handle high turnover in your shop? New shop and my staff is constantly changing. Some of them are just groomers that moved, yada, yada, yada. I've had one girl quit without notice because I made some changes after the first year. First of all, that's a red flag. You made changes after the first year. What were the changes? Were they agreed upon changes? That seems appropriate if I get hired and I have an expectation, the expectation changes, and I'm like, you know what, this isn't for me anymore. And then we go for, I have a groomer who has been with me for a few months and they're a friend of 10 years. That's a key point. And when I correct anything she does that affects the business, she becomes extremely defensive and disrespectful to me. I want her gone. I don't even care about rescheduling the dogs, but I am afraid of how it will make my business look if I can't keep staff. My shop is highly desirable by local dog owners because of our high quality friendliness and family ran values. Being boss is a title I absolutely hate and frankly am not great at. But I'm not rude. I don't ask for too much and I value my people. I do, however, get walked all over and I'm over it. After this display, I want to fire this groomer, but I'm expecting she will quit after a face-to-face conversation. Background the convo, she rescheduled 2 dogs from her to the new groomer in training. New groomer can only do 2 dogs a day currently and somewhat well-behaved dogs. She did this at 8 p.m. last night for today, and I noticed it and tried to figure out if there was a reason plan. She also used to train groomers at PetSmart, so she knows that what they are capable of. Dog has a bite tag and clear notes on their file. With that said, I was all in the group chat with everyone to see. And again, that was this first message, right? Now, what I thought was really interesting is that with her message and with this, everyone was like fire that groomer. Oh my God, they're so disrespectful. But this is where I think that, again, as an industry, we're not taught how to manage people, right? We're not. This person is openly admitting they're uncomfortable being a boss and they don't feel proficient at it, right? Being boss is a title I absolutely hate. They openly admit they don't enjoy being a manager or a boss, right? And they know, and they're openly admitting they're not good at it, right? And as for the rude, don't ask for value people, we're going to go through that in a little bit. So here was my response, okay? So it sounds like there are not clear roles and expectations for the job. It sounds like it's kind of a free-for-all, which it does, right? Again, if this person is messaging someone at 8 p.m. at night and there's no clear expectations. There's a lot involved with hiring, managing, paying employees that the industry just doesn't want to talk about, which you guys generally don't. Managing staff is a job all on its own. Managing staff should be its own standalone role in a perfect role, especially as you get bigger. Employees should have 3 to 4 interviews to make sure they're a good fit. There should be a clear SOP manual on how to handle the situation. It sounds like they, as in the groomer, is frustrated with the fact that they're doing a role skill that they're not prepared for. I do not ever suggest that groomers regular schedule dogs. It's a role of a manager, receptionist, or a VA. Our staff cannot be all things at once. And the question is, does this person have a bad attitude, or are they struggling for leadership clarity and not getting it? And they finally kind of snapped. One time I heard a saying, and it was so perfect. I'm going to butcher it, but it was essentially, is this person crazy, or did you make them crazy? And I think a lot of times it's unfortunately what is going on there, right? So, and then we go, okay, right from there, we say, it also sounds like this should have been a more appropriate to have this conversation in person, privately, right? To see if she needs more support and training to do that role. Sometimes we have to look at our role as manager and owner. You're the boss, and you take on that leadership role. And I do believe 100% of everything I said. This is where things got interesting. The owner wrote back, there's a 15-page employee handbook. We have a receptionist and a virtual assistant. Nobody asked or expected her to reschedule them. Unfortunately, this doesn't make any sense. You can't live in both realities. You can't say, no, this was not her job and her responsibility. No one asked her to do it. No one expected her to do it, right? And we have an employee handbook, but I'm not a good boss, and I'm not really prepared to be a leader. So if you're not a good boss, and you openly admit that, I don't think your employee handbook is probably the best. And if it is a really good employee handbook, who's in charge of enforcing it and making sure that they understand what's involved in that employee handbook? So I wrote, if she wasn't allowed to reschedule them and it's not part of her job description, why did she? I want you guys to put yourself in the place of most of us here have been a groomer at one point. Why would you at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm assuming that must have been at her house, right? Because was she staying at the grooming salon till 8 p.m.? If she was that because she was running late and the day has been really long? Do they have 10-hour days? Like, what's going on that a groomer is at a grooming salon at 8 p.m.? Or is she calling people from home? Either way, it seems kind of odd, right? It just doesn't make sense. I also do not see in the text message you saying anything like, thank you so much for doing that, but it's not an appropriate part of your job. If you call and reschedule clients, will be written up, or whatever the penalty is in the employee handbook. Again, if you have both a receptionist and a VA, why did your groomer feel compelled to call someone, right? Why would your groomer feel compelled to call someone at 8 o'clock at night? It doesn't make sense. Right? Now, you could say, well, this person went totally rogue, right? And called this client behind my back. And if you're saying to me that this person is so mentally unstable, right, that they would take it upon themselves to do something totally out of the ordinary and cancel this appointment because they're crazy. That is one option. But as we see up here, sorry, right, when we're thinking about that, right? Well, that doesn't make any sense, right? Again, this is someone you've known for 10 years. So you trust her enough to be competent. You know she's not crazy. You know her for 10 years. Either you knew she was crazy and you hired her anyway, or, she's not crazy, right? And then when we come down here again, right? The other option is this person was just so overwhelmed working so late at night that they're like, I can't freaking do this 2 days from now. Like, I need to take something off my plate. Or they looked at the day and they said, Jesus Christ, I have these 2 dogs or 3 dogs at the end of the day. It's not really clear from this message, right? Or it sounds like there's unrealistic expectations where the dogs are going to be there longer than 3 hours because the dogs are aggressive. When I read this, it sounds to me more like this person is either very confused about what their role is, or they're in a lot of upset and pain, right? This doesn't sound to me like an employee who is crazy. It sounds like somebody who's like, I can't take this anymore. There's a receptionist and a VA and nobody is doing anything, right? And again, it's obvious by her wording, she feels that scheduling is her responsibility, right? It's really obvious, right? Because she says, going forward, you can just schedule the dogs yourself or miss, let's say Susie Q. To me, that says that I don't want the responsibility of rescheduling these dogs. And you tell me you have 2 people in charge of that, yet your groomer is having such a hard time emotionally, whatever, that she's now doing it, right? That's the truth, right? She's saying, hey, fine, if I'm not doing it right, please have somebody else do it. Is she doing it defensively? Well, let's look at this. If I look at this and this is your employee, yeah, she's really rude. But if I look at this as a good friend of mine of 10 years who's really pissed off at me, this is pretty accurate. Like, I have some very good friends of mine, right? And I love them to bits. But yeah, if they are making me crazy, I am going to be quote unquote disrespectful. And this could be, again, are you clear on your role? Like, I literally say to my friends, I say, if we're working together, I say, hey, I have to put on my boss hat for a minute and have a conversation. Or, hey, I need to put my friend hat on right now and have a conversation. Or I'll say to them, hey, is this, friend River talking, or is this boss River talking, right? In this conversation, instead of just replying noted, I agree with her. You should definitely talk to her the next day in person. And that's when I would say, hey, please for a second, Susie Q, I need to put boss River hat on for a second. Can you please put on employee Susie Q hat on? Because I want to make sure that this is not affecting our friendship. And I want to make sure that the level of respect we have for each other, I'm going to respect you as an employee, and you're going to respect me as your boss, right? We need to have these conversations, and we need to have them in a healthy way, right? She honestly believed it was her job because she did it. And I'm inclined to believe, because your response was they are good clients and good tippers. First of all, that is the most inappropriate thing to respond to. Like, that is terrible. They are good clients and good tippers. Way to completely undermine your employees' pain there. Keeping them happy is part of my job. I agree. As an owner, your job is to keep clients happy, 1000%, right? And then again, going forward, let's respect the 2-dog limit. At no point do you say, hey, this is not your job. I really appreciate you trying to go above and beyond, but this is inappropriate. Please do not do this, right? No, you actually critiqued what she did, right? And for better or for worse, right? You told her how to continue to do it, but you can't sit here and say it's not her job. No one told her to do it. Don't do it. and then you critique how she's doing it. It doesn't make any sense, right? I think that's where you guys constantly talk out of both sides of your mouth. If it's not her job and you have other employees doing the job, then when they do something like this and it's not their job, you need to correct it gently. Hey, I really appreciate you doing this. Unfortunately, it has created some stress in the business. I know, right? And you have to know, do you really know in your heart she did it for a good reason, right? And that's important too. From the way that you talk about her in this, right? She's a good friend of yours for 10 years. And then anytime you correct anything she does that affects the business, well, that's called being an employee. Anytime I treat her like an employee, she becomes extremely defensive and disrespectful to me. Okay, but when you treat her as an employee, are you treating her actually like an employee, or are you being overly emotional and you're not being a very good conversation? Right. Exactly. I think it's pretty rough that this text conversation is happening at 11 p.m. when it definitely could have waited to the next business day and happened in person. You probably could avoid any kind of text message or anything. Well, this is the conversation too. Again, are you being a boss? When you text me at 11 p.m., and again, whoever this is, I'm so sorry I can't see. You must have more context than me, and I appreciate that. Right? When this stuff happens, right, you have to, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you are text, first of all, you should never group. This is obviously a group text. Oh yeah, you can see it, 11 p.m. Yep. Thank you. Great catch. I didn't even catch that. So you're texting your employee at 11 p.m. and correcting their behavior. That is incredibly inappropriate, right? You can't expect your employees to treat your business with respect and you as a boss when you don't act with respect and as a boss. This actually should have been a moment where this person could have taken their employee aside and said, hey, not a big issue. Oh, hey, Terry, great to see you, girly. Thank you. I appreciate it. I know for whatever reason, it just says Facebook user. I know why, but that's okay. But exactly, when you're looking at this, right? What I see here is people that don't have healthy friend versus employee boundaries. What I see here is someone who is not a good manager, right? Because when you think about it, right? Okay, so again, in Manage, we talk about, childhood wounding. We talk about different personalities, thinking types, feeling types, lots and lots of stuff. So when I read this and I look through it the lens as a manager, what I hear is someone's, for better or for worse, childhood wounding really coming through. Hey, Mindy, great to see you live. So what I hear is someone who's a friend who's like, this is bullshit. My friend of 10 years who I now work for is choosing this customer and is choosing the baby groomer over me. We have been friends forever. Why don't I deserve protection? She wants me to deal with this customer who I feel is unruly. And again, everyone has different feelings on customers. She wants me to do these two bitey dogs, right? And it might take more than 3 hours, but she cares more about this good client and a good tipper than she cares about my mental health. That's where, if I had to take a wild stab at it from just this little snippet, I'm going to take a wild stab at it and say that's probably where this employee is coming from. Is this childhood wounding of why aren't you willing to protect me? Why am I unworthy of the level of care and consideration, right? And on the flip side, when you read through this message, by the way, right? This person who's a friend of 10 years, and that's important, okay? If you read through here, I just want to read certain things. So she's flat out saying, when I correct her anything about the business, she becomes extremely defensive and disrespectful to me. And when someone becomes disrespectful to us, we have to say, okay, are they intentionally disrespecting us, or is this my perspective? Right? Is it that my friend is talking to me as a friend, or is it that and again, have you communicated that? Because when I read this, I see a friend talking to a friend and being really pissed off. And like Terry just mentioned, I'd be pretty pissed off even if I wasn't your friend. You're messaging me at 11 o'clock to correct me on something I did, And if I worked at 8 p.m., either I worked a long day or I went on my time off, right? And you're messaging me on my day off or my night off, right? It could have waited a few hours. It's just so inappropriate. But you're saying here, right? If you read through the lines a little bit, right? This person's this person's defensive, this person's disrespectful, but I totally own that I'm really bad at being a boss, right? So maybe this person being defensive is because you don't know how to manage and you don't know how to be gentle. When we're talking about cat grooming or we're talking about aggressive dogs, right? Half the time we know if a dog is overreacting, if a cat is overreacting, we're accidentally creating the overreaction. Has it ever occurred to you that this overreaction from your employee is something that you're triggering? And now you might be like, well, that's not my responsibility, my fault. Well, that depends. If you don't want high turnover rate, it is. We have to find a balance between treating people like people who have mental health issues, who come and they're not perfect, right? And finding a balance between that and treating them like they're completely indifferent. Because again, you're saying, I don't ask for too much. Well, you have, hun, you have. Obviously, this person felt at 8 o'clock at night, this person is rescheduling 2 dogs off of their schedule because either it's too much for them to do, right? Or they feel the need to go above and beyond because your VA and your receptionist is not stepping up. There's something going on there. It doesn't make any sense otherwise, right? And you're saying, I value my people. Where in any of this do you guys see any mutual respect or value? My friend of 10 years, I just want her gone, right? I mean, when you read this, I hear value in the customers and I hear value in somebody like your baby groomer. I don't see any respect or value for that employee, right? She's extremely defensive and disrespectful to me. Well, what have you done to repair that relationship? What have you done to do anything with it? You group texted her at 11 o'clock at night because you flat out say down here, right? She rescheduled the 2 dogs. New groomer can only do 2 dogs, right? So you are explaining to us why she can't reschedule the dogs off of her. I want to ask you, why did she reschedule those 2 dogs off of her? Is she just lazy? I don't believe so. It sounds like she's overwhelmed and she said, here, they can take them. They don't have anything. Maybe they have 1 dog on the schedule. I just need dogs off my schedule, right? And she did it 8 o'clock at night. And today I noticed it and tried to figure out if there was a reason or a plan. So you group texted her if there was a reason or a plan and she's disrespectful. It doesn't make any sense. And again, I'm not blaming you for not having the skill sets to be a good leader. I think as an industry, what shocked me about this is out of like the 200 comments, less than 10 of them were pointing out the fact that this person openly admits that they're not a good boss and they don't have their shit together. And then when you point out, hey, maybe you don't have your shit together, they double down and act like, just kidding. I know I said that I'm a bad leader and a bad boss, and I hate calling myself a boss, but they have a 10-page employee handbook and it's not, nobody asked her or expected her to do her job. You can't live in both worlds. It doesn't work that way, guys. Right? Terry said, also, if you have a high turnover rate and are a poor leader, it's time to realize you're the problem. As an industry, we don't teach people how to be good leaders. We don't teach people how to create sustainable ecosystems of employees. Perhaps it's time for them to bring in a manager and put someone in place who enjoys leadership. Absolutely. and someone who actually knows how to communicate. And then you need to not do this. You need to not message these people, right? Because again, this is not kind. This is not good leadership. So when you have things like this, guys, again, you need to pay attention, because the majority of us are like, just throw that groomer away. This person is saying that they don't ask for too much. I don't believe that. I don't think it's intentional. I think that we accidentally add more roles. We're right now creating the hire masterclass. And it was so cute because as we're creating it, I'm working with my employees and they're like, oh my God, yeah, I've never thought of that. I'm like, I know, because we are so conditioned in this industry to just keep piling on. When you first start, we give you like this much work, but then as you get comfortable, we just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding. You guys have ever heard of Joe and the Button Factory? It's a cute little kid song that goes like, hey, Joe, are you busy? I said, no. And then, it's like, hi, my name is Joe. I work in a button factory. One day, my boss came to me and said, Joe, are you busy? I said, no. And he said, push your button with your left hand, and then you do your right hand, and then your elbow, and then your head, and you're just like, oh. And at the end, you go, Joe, are you busy? And I said, yes. And you like fall to the ground. It's super cute. My kid used to love it. And that's the problem, right? Is that this is, yes, I cannot take anything else. Yes, I am very busy. We are seeing this everywhere in the grooming industry. Some of it is we don't have healthy expectations and we don't ask enough of our employees. But a lot of us, we are accidentally asking for too much. And I think that's where we need clarity. Clarity. Most of us don't, even if you have an SOP manual, right? This person has a 15-page SOP manual. Okay, then employee handbook. Okay, then why didn't you just sit down with that person the next day and say, hey, thank you so much. Again, honor them. They went above and beyond. At 8 p.m. at night, they're rescheduling dogs for you. They're just trying to do you a favor, or they're trying to do them a favor. Right? It's not like Snively Whiplash, like sneaky villain. Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate you going beyond. It's completely inappropriate for you to be scheduling dogs at home. By the way, if they're scheduling dogs at home at 8 p.m., why do they have access to your computer record? Right? It doesn't make any sense. And if they're at the shop at 8 p.m., then what receptionist or what manager, who's letting them just take the phone and make a phone call? Again, doesn't make any sense. So thank you so much. This is not your job. I'm going to give you a verbal warning. You are not allowed to reschedule or touch the calendar. If you have an issue with the calendar or schedule, please come to me. I am more than happy to listen to your concerns. If you feel like these dogs are too much for you, I totally understand, and we will work that out. If you feel like I'm overbooking you, I really need you to let me know so that way I can help you out, right? This is what should have happened. And instead, it's a conversation like this. And then the worst part is, in the industry, we all double down and go, oh yeah, look at this awful employee. And I'm like, yeah, but is it? I see it as someone who took initiative because your infrastructure is possibly failing your clients, your employees. Then you're basically shaming that person for taking the initiative, let alone being 11 p.m. at night when you think it's appropriate. Exactly. 1000%. And again, this happens so much in the grooming industry, guys. Too much. So this is just a really kind reminder that, first of all, when you see these posts, look at them through the eyes of a healthy employee and ask yourself, why would this person do this? Right? And even then, if there was a reason or a plan, well, there must have been a reason. I mean, she's not unless if you're telling me this person, I love when Judge Judy does it. She goes, does this person have have you ever been under psychiatric care? Are you currently on any drugs that would create any hallucinogenic situations? No? Okay. If this person is not completely out of their bananas, by the way, if they are out of their banana, you should not have them working for you, right? There is always a reason. They weren't just like, oh, whatever, 8 p.m. at night, let me just reschedule these people. No, there was definitely a reason. And that's where, again, you say, hey, you need to come to me if there's an issue. And then if you're like, what was your plan? Again, that's not an appropriate conversation. Like, what was your plan? It's like, hey, can you tell me the reason? And then when they tell you the reason, you go, okay, I can see where you thought that was appropriate, because it probably isn't something completely crazy, right? But then what are you going to do about it, right? And say, okay. And then you can say, hey, what was the plan, so that I can understand what you thought was good. And then I want to make sure that I'm going to be able to like fix that in the future, because I don't want you to be so upset or overwhelmed at 8 p.m. at night that you rebook a client, especially because then you accidentally did cause potential harm to the baby groomer, because God forbid we didn't catch that. She could have been really hurt, and we don't want her to get hurt. We want to really set her up for success in the grooming industry, right? My employee isn't going out of their way to do anything they aren't paid for, right? Because I told them not to. It doesn't make any sense. But again, if we look here, this person, the owner, is not saying, hey, this was not your job or your responsibility. Again, they're correcting the behavior, which means that when they write this, they're talking out both sides of their mouth. You can't tell me you're correcting your client. You're correcting your employee on how to book, and then sit here and tell me you have not one but two people are in charge of booking. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's where I'm at with this. And again, I see so much of this, and I really wouldn't have gone on this long rant or reaction, if you want, if I didn't see literally out of 200 comments, probably 10 were like, hey, something's not right here, right? And when we break it down, we can see, again, is she crazy? Is this employee crazy, or did this employee be made crazy? And the fact that they're your friend of 10 years means that your friends are always going to be more disrespectful of you in a work environment. Because it's, again, the respect we have for a boss is so different than the respect we have for a friend, right? And a lot of things I could say to my friend would be incredibly disrespectful to an employee. And I have to watch myself with that even, right? If I'm talking to one of my employees, I have to say, hey, I want to talk to you about something, but I want to put friend hat river on. Why? Because it might be inappropriate to have that conversation with an employee, or vice versa. I've had my employees say something and I'm like, hey, can I put my boss hat on for a second? They're like, yeah, why? And I'm like, hey, as your friend, that's totally cool, right? Can we talk about this? Right, exactly. You aren't going to write a friend up for insubordination. Exactly. And again, I think if you think about it, especially where most of us have most groomers I know are overly opinionated. Let me tell you, I have an opinion about everything. And even if I don't have a dog in the fight, I'm like, I'm going to make an opinion about that. I'm going to make a decision about that, right? But yes, if you are having lots of turnover, like you said, and you hate being a boss, that makes sense to me. And you have 2 staff members that are taking appointments, and yet your groomer is still making appointments. It just doesn't make sense. So, it's one of those, like, am I the asshole? Like, is this employee the asshole, or is the boss the asshole? I don't think anyone's the asshole. I think it's a lack of training on both sides. I think this employee is not clear on what they do for work. They're not clear on where to go, and they don't feel safe coming to you when there's a problem with work. This is a really obvious conversation. This is not a conversation where someone would feel safe going to this person, right? You could have just sat them down, had that conversation, and been like, I really appreciate it. Please don't do it again. If you do it again, this is your verbal warning. Next time it's a write-up. Again, and even then, right? Because you were upset with her saying, if you don't like the way I schedule, have these other people do it. Why would someone say that who doesn't think it's their job? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? It could be your friend who's trying to go above and beyond to help support you in your new business. But you say you care and you value her, but you just want her gone. You don't want to fix anything, right? You don't want to fix anything. You just want her gone. I want her gone. I don't even care about rescheduling the dogs. I want her gone. My friend of 10 years, right? Who I belittled, like Terry's saying, at 11 o'clock at night. I don't even want to try to salvage the work relationship. I just want her gone. This is why people are not having good work experiences with employers, and it's so hard to find employees because even if you do get them, you make them crazy. Yeah. So yeah, and that's a great way to get someone to quit. Absolutely. Right? You could still, I would still file for unemployment though if I quit doing this, and I would have mentioned harassment, 1,000%. Right? But again, you hate being a boss. It's really obvious, which is very unfortunate, and you've chosen to have employees, and you're not managing them very well, and you don't actually want to fix this situation. It's not, hey, how can I be a better leader? How can I be a better boss? How do I fix this? No, it's just like they're gone. And now here's the thing. Maybe this person, maybe I don't know this person, maybe this employee really is a turd. Maybe they are really just a terrible person and they're rotten to the core. And you have friends of 10 years that are just terrible human beings. Maybe that's true. But it also says a lot about the grooming industry, who is saying if you're a friend of 10 years and you hire them and you can't work it out, that you should just fire them and you're better off. I think that is a big red flag for the entire industry, who's in the middle of a groomer drought, and we're all bitching and moaning that no one wants to work. Maybe it's because when they do work, they have situations like this. Just a hot take, guys. So I want to thank you guys so much for being here. This went on way longer than I expected, but I just feel really, really, really passionate about this. I really do. Yeah, I'm scared for my students. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's the truth, guys, right? We have to learn how to hire, manage, and pay people. Like Savvy Groomer, I didn't want to create 3 classes for you guys on how to do it. And even then, I don't even think the classes I have are going to fix the industry enough. And I'm not saying go buy my classes. What I'm saying is that we need to, as an industry, totally change our mindset. When we see someone post something like that, I want you to sit back and really think about it. Say, is this appropriate? Is this real? Is this accurate? Right? Or is this is this a big misunderstanding? Is this a big misunderstanding? Because that's what I think a lot of this is. They all want to stay now, and I can't afford to pay them. They're like, listen, I can't keep you all. You're gonna have to figure it out. It's hard. And that's where too, in the industry, we need more people who know how to manage, that know, and again, that's an entire skill set that we're not taught as an industry. We're just not. We're taught how to groom, and we're taught like basically how to be our own little operators in a team, but that's not what a team is. You have to learn how to interact with other people. And it makes sense, right? I mean, most groomers I know aren't people. And the ones that are annoying people, right? They're just like I can be sometimes. You see at trade shows, I'm either like quiet and I'm like hiding, or I'm like, hi, I miss you, blah, 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 right? So I just want you to consider that. Again, you are going to need, if you're going to keep a team, you need to learn how to manage people. And if your belief is, okay, well, they have to have, be a perfect person. They have to have nothing personal going on with them at any time. Just suck it up, leave your emotions at the door, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then hire somebody who is indifferent. You guys you want to hire someone who's passionate, but then you don't like the flip side. You want to hire somebody, who is it's just so funny. Like there's consequences on all sides when you have things that you like about somebody, right? It's kind of like when someone's like, oh yeah, I love this person. They're so ambitious and they love to learn and da da da. And then like 2 years later, like, oh my God, they're leaving me and opening on their own shop. And I'm like, well, yeah, you hired an ambitious person who wanted to learn. They've learned everything they need to learn from you, and now they're going to go off on their own. We have to change this, okay? Well, thank you guys so much. It's actually the kiddo's birthday. He is 12 on the 12th. Fun birthday, right? And I am going to go take him out, and I'm going to have a lovely, lovely cocktail, and he is going to eat his stuff of God knows what, whatever he wants. It was so funny. I'm like, what do you want to do for your birthday? And he's like, I'm like, what do you mean you don't like her? We want anything you want. He's like, maybe we'll go to dinner. I'm like, where do you want to go to dinner? He's like, Cello's, which is like our local Applebee. And I'm like, really? That? Really? Okay. I mean, that's what you want. Who am I? Whatever. I don't care. What makes you happy? I mean, you want lobster, kid? Nah, I'm good. I'm like, whatever. All right, guys. It was so great to see you. This was I made this little graphic. I like it. River rant, river reacts. Those who know. Incoming rant. Boop, boop. All right, guys. If you just caught the tail end, go ahead and check out. It was a little long. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll have Tiffany cut it down for me. She is the absolute best. All right, guys. Talk to you later.